Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing another story time related type video, and this one is going to be all about my worst piercing experience or my horror piercing experience. And I'm going to be telling you what piercing it was, why it was so horrible, and just everything all up and above of that sort. So basically this video is going to be all about my very first piercing ever besides my lobes. My lobe piercings were my very first piercing that I ever got, and I was obviously a very young child at the time, so I literally remember nothing about getting my first lobes done. And basically growing up with my mom, I was never allowed to get piercings or tattoos while living under her roof. The only thing I was allowed to get was like lobe piercings. So throughout my teenage years, I got my second and my third lobes done, and I had literally had no other piercings at that time. I did at one point have a cartilage piercing, but that didn't last very long just because it never healed right because it was done with a gun, so that was just like a whole other shit show. But basically growing up, I was never ever allowed to like have piercings or tattoos. I had to wait till I was 18 and moved out of the house. So when I was about a couple weeks away from turning 18, I talked about it with my mom about how I really wanted to get my belly button pierced. And if I talked about it with her when I was 16 years old, and she was like, absolutely not, you are way too young to have a belly button piercing, like why do you need a belly button piercing at 16, yada yada yada. So that was just my mom's point of view on things. So I figured since I'm going to be 18 in a couple weeks, I figure 18 is a pretty appropriate age to get a belly button piercing, at least in my opinion. And I figured my mom would also be okay with it as well because, you know, it is a belly button piercing, and you know, it's not that big of an out there piercing when you're 18. And I talked it over with her and she said that would be fine. So I made an appointment to get my belly button pierced at a shop where I used to get all of my tattoos. And this was back in August of 2011, I want to say. So it's been quite a few years since I've gotten the piercing, but even still to this day, like this experience will like never leave me, and it was one of the most like scariest, like most painful experiences like ever. And I remember the day of the piercing, I was super nervous but like super excited, like this was going to be like my first big piercing besides my lobe piercings. And it was me, my mom, my sister, and my boyfriend at the time. We all went together. Because my mom obviously had to be there because I wasn't quite 18 yet. I was still considered a minor, so she had to like sign all the paperwork and whatnot, yada yada. So once we get in and sign all the paperwork and get acquainted with the artist and all that good stuff, I go ahead and pick out my jewelry. The jewelry that I picked was, and I actually still have it, I wonder if I can get it for you guys and show you. So this was actually the belly button ring that I originally had. This was my first ever belly button ring. After he pierced me, this is the jewelry that I went with. It's just like a white and black like flame type thing. It's so freaking generic and weird, but like I loved it at the time. It was finally time to come to pierce me, and I was getting really super nervous at this point because I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to really hurt. I didn't know if it was going to be fine. I didn't know if I was going to bleed a lot. Like what if I pass out? Like I was just all these thoughts were running through my head, but I think the number one thought that I remember the most was feeling nervous. So I lay down on the chair. They had me lay flat down so that my belly was nice and flat. And this is when he started to mark the area to make sure like it's straight, you know, taking a mirror, marking it, lining it up. You know, he did this for about a good 5 to 10 minutes. And then it finally came time to pierce. And this is when all hell broke loose, at least in my eyes. So once he started to pierce me, he had a clamp and he was down like this, and he started to pierce my belly button, and the first part of the needle went through, which I very much felt because it literally felt like he was going so slow to pierce me. Like it felt like he was going like the slowest he possibly could. And right away I instantly regretted this. I was like, oh my god, this hurts so freaking bad. And I would just remember going like this, covering my eyes while holding my mom's hand, like squeezing my mom's hand for dear life because I was in so much pain. And then he tries to push the needle through the top part of the skin, and he could not get it, you guys. Like, I freaking kid you not, he sat there like with his hand shaking, trying to pierce me through my fucking skin. And he literally stops halfway through with this needle sticking halfway out of my fucking skin, and he goes, "You have really tough skin." And then he starts talking to my mom right next to me, and I'm like sitting there in so much pain with this needle like halfway piercing me, and I'm like, just fucking do it, like just get it over with, just get it done. He finally decides to try again, so he takes the needle, takes the clamp, and pushes with all his might and just pushes, and I'm literally sitting in this chair like just laying back going and literally everyone in the room was like, just breathe, you know, it's almost done, you're doing great, da da da, you know, all the like usual stuff that you're supposed to say. And finally I just hear a one big loud. I look down and there's the needle. He finally was able to get it pierced through my belly button, thank fucking God. And then came time to put the jewelry in. He put the jewelry in. Thank God that went smoothly. And then the nightmare was over, and then I just started gushing pure blood all over the place. It was just it was literally like the worst piercing experience I've ever had. And mind you guys, like this was also kind of like a new / scary experience for me, because at the time I didn't even have any tattoos. Like I wasn't even 18 yet. So walking into like this hardcore like street shop, like, you know, with all the tattooed people and the piercer who had tattoos and piercings everywhere, it was very, very intimidating, and like the loud music, like it was extremely intimidating to walk in there like all virgin skin and everything and getting your belly button pierced. Like, I don't know, it was fucking like, it was insane. And you know, like my poor mother, like who has never like even been inside a tattoo shop before, was kind of like, is this safe? Like, are you like cool with this? And I'm like, yeah, this is where it is, like it's fine. But yeah, it was like just a very odd experience, and the fact that he literally, I think the entire belly button piercing, which should usually only take about 5 to 10 minutes tops, like max, like that's if there's an issue. It took him maybe 20 minutes to pierce my belly button. Like it went through the bottom part of the skin okay, but then when it came to like the top part of the skin, like it would not budge, like it would just not go through. I don't know if he got like a botched needle from like his set. Oh, if you're wondering, I have retainers in my nose because I just was at work, so that's why they're not, my nose rings aren't in. Anyway, thankfully I've never had a piercing experience like that since my belly button. Thank goodness. I could not imagine ever going through something like that again. But yeah, my belly button piercing took about a year and 2 months to fully heal. It never like rejected or migrated or anything. It just, for some reason, just was really red, really sore, really crusty for a very, very, very long time, which is common with belly button piercings. Typically it's like 6 to 12 months is the average time for a belly button piercing / surface piercing. So that is basically everything that I have to share for my piercing horror story. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. What I want you guys to do is go down in the comments, and I want you to share your own personal piercing horror story. What piercing gave you absolute hell? What piercing was the absolute worst to get done? And do you have any crazy experiences from getting a piercing? Don't forget to go and check out my belly button piercing playlist if you want to know more of the healing process and all that jazz. Also, make sure to go down and subscribe if you already haven't. But until then, I will see you guys very soon in my next video. I love you guys. Bye!